G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today we're going to have a look at perhaps one of the most incredible premium planes in the entire game. The G55S has, for me, always been an absolute monster of a plane. It's always been great, and I've always had a massive soft spot for it. To me, the G55S is almost like a Spitfire, with all the weaknesses of the Spitfire that I personally don't like gone. The Spitfire for me is it feels fragile, and the guns are, to me, quite pathetic. Let's just say. Now the G55S throws that all out the window with and a couple of added extra weak spots, but for the most part, weaknesses that for me I can overcome. I've played this plane a lot. It is one of my most played planes, and it is, as I've said in a previous video, one of the planes that I'm most comfortable with. I've sort of grown to really like this plane, and it could just be because of my Maltese heritage, which is close to Italy. But this particular plane is pretty nice. The 3MG151s work really well. They're pretty strong cannons. And then on top of that, you have really good turning performance. You have good energy retention, and you're also not too slow. I mean, it is slow, but the speed, it kind of makes up for it with acceleration. If you have a plane that's playing smart and they're boom and zooming instead of bleeding all their energy, you aren't really in a great position when it comes to that. But you have the climb rate, you have the turn rate, you have a good rudder. You have very floaty wings rather than... Your plane doesn't roll so much with the wings. They produce a lot of lift, and it's really fun to play around with this. You can pretty much take a P-51 into a stall, and you should have every advantage, provided that you have some energy over him or have equal amounts of energy. The G55S is perhaps one of the most worthwhile premiums. For me, I use it to grind my Silver Lions. If I need Silver Lions, I'll just jump into the G55S, or I'll jump into... Recently, I've been playing the A2D for Silver Lions. I have played the JU288 in the past, so there are a lot of options if you want to start grinding Silver Lions. One of the ways that you do that the best is just simply play the game. There is no set way to earn Silver Lions. No set game mode that earns Silver Lions better. You just have to play. You have to get kills, and you have to win. That is the main crux of what you need to do. That is the core, more or less. If you don't get kills, and if you don't... bombing bases is alright. That gives you about 10,000 Silver Lions, but 10,000 Silver Lions isn't going to get you anywhere. A kill will give you 10 to 12. A victory will, secure that. A loss, you get less. But the G55S for me is the best way for me to get wins, best way for me to get kills, and ultimately, as a result, the best way to get Silver Lions. I don't need to farm ground targets. I don't need to farm bases. I have a torpedo if I get a naval map and or an ocean map like Norway and decide, I can go torpedo some ships. In fact, during patch 1.69, when this plane was released, I actually did that. There was a particular match where we had a 4-man squad, and a Lancaster climbed up to something like 12 or 13k. We weren't going to chase it down, so we decided to farm ships all game. We were there for 45 minutes, just ferrying torpedoes back and forth. And honestly, it was one of the most relaxing games of War Thunder that I've ever played. Anyway, back to the gameplay. So you can see I have decided to climb, and I climb at about 240 kilometers per hour. You don't climb at a set angle, you climb at a set speed, because at the end of the day, what generates the lift is speed over the plane. And obviously prop wash, but a big part of that is your speed. So, I've gotten myself some altitude over a Typhoon and an F-82 and a Spitfire off there to the left. That is exactly what I need, and this Typhoon is sort of avoiding me, trying to keep his speed, and then he just goes into a dive, basically wasting all that time climbing, but at the same time trying to chase down that P-47, which isn't too bad of an idea, but as the Spitfire comes in, I need to take that out first. That is a priority target for me. If I can turn with the Spitfire, I can barely turn with the Spitfire in the G55S. You can do it, but it's situational, and I don't want to be in a situation where the Spitfire can outturn me. And it shows me that the Typhoon is struggling a little bit. I can casually sit behind him. I can pop my flaps. I can do whatever I want. And a Spitfire comes in, so I have to quickly finish off this Typhoon. And I do that with a keyboard shot. The Spitfire comes in, and I'm using my rudder. I'm using my flaps to turn. I'm sort of ruddering around, rolling around, trying to get him to overshoot. And I can do that in this plane. I should be stepping off the WEP, but he decides to turn off as the speed is a little bit high. I'm sitting at about 400 kilometers per hour, and that is where the Spitfire is starting to compress. I try and get a shot here with stealth belts, but they don't connect. I go around to try and finish him off, and sure enough, I miss again. Nice. At this point, the Spitfire is just too slow. It's too slow to do anything, and I've basically caught it with my better energy retention. That is a 3 versus 2-ish one very, very easily. Extremely easily. This plane can do wonders. It is one of the planes that is just absolutely stunning when it comes to dogfights. It excels in that area. And one of the things that you need to consider, especially when you fight this thing, is it alone? Does it have energy on me? Should I be turning with it? Things like a Typhoon, I would never turn with a G55S. Things like Spitfire, I would try and bring it to low speed before I start turn fighting it. I would try and start maybe stall maneuvers, energy maneuvers, to try and get this plane below 350 kilometers per hour. As soon as you get to 200 kilometers per hour in the G55S, it is still maneuverable, but it is very, very sluggish. So the Spitfire really, really excels anywhere below 280 kilometers per hour. The G55S is king above that, and whilst you do want to be traveling fast, sometimes traveling fast you can overshoot. So it is a double-edged sword. You want to finish them quickly. You don't want to mess around with a Spitfire. A Griffin Spitfire, maybe you can mess around with a little bit, because honestly I would compare this to a Griffin Spitfire that can't climb as well, and that doesn't really accelerate as well. It is a fantastic plane, but it certainly does have its limitations. It can't roll. It needs that rudder, and when you rudder, you have that risk of overturning, basically. As you can see here, I go for a couple of shots. The P-47 wants in. I don't really want to deal with a P-47 spraying behind me, or rather through me, and I have a P-51 that I can take care of. He's not paying attention. This is a very, very easy kill. He's given me his profile, and it's just extremely easy kill. The F4 here is also in the same position. He hasn't noticed me, and I go in, I butcher my shots, and finally get a nice kill. There's the ace. The G55S is probably one of the more worthwhile premiums. In my last video, I talked about the M46 and how I didn't think it was worth it because it sort of lost its value over time. It got an up tier to 7.0, and it's now facing a lot more tougher opponents. It's no longer facing King Tigers and Panther 2s on the regular. It's now facing things like Leopards. It's facing things like the RU-251, which granted it can still kill, but you know. It's also facing higher tier stuff like the T-54s a lot more regularly. So, you know, there's a bit of a trade-off there. Whereas with the G55S, it has not lost its value one bit in my opinion. It is still the same amazing plane that it was back in the day. The only problem is with the G55S is that if someone is stuck behind you, as in sometimes if you're below 300 kilometers per hour or 350, a Corsair is able to outturn you in some circumstances, and in some cases you're able to have P-51s sit behind you. This plane is a very aggressive plane. You need to be on the aggressive, but you can play defensive, which is what is one of the nicest things about this plane. It's sort of very, very, very versatile in Air RB. In Tanks RB, I wouldn't bother. There are better planes for that. By the IAR 81, you know, there are other options for you there. But in Air RB, this plane is certainly one of the best, and I would say it is easily one of the most enjoyable planes that I've ever played. I've got an ace crew. I've got 500 kills to my name in this plane for roughly 100 deaths. So I love it. I absolutely adore this plane. It's my Italian stallion, if you will. But yeah, the G55S, one of the most competent planes in the entire game, only rivaled by perhaps the P51Ds, rivaled by the Corsairs, rivaled by the Bf-109 G2 Tropical at that battle rating. You know, this whole battle rating is actually really good. And there are a lot of very valuable planes on both sides. The Typhoon as well, if you use it properly, it can really, really dominate G55s. Although it is more a plane to fight against Focke-Wulfs and Bf-109s, slightly heavier planes. But, you know, you can make things work. The G55S, you know, if you can turn with a Spitfire in a G55S at low speeds and get away with it, surely you can find some magic there. But essentially, I would say the G55 is well worth your time. It is well worth your money. I wouldn't pick it up unless you actively want to grind out some stuff. I wouldn't actively pick it up unless there's a sale on though, because this thing regularly goes on sale. Wait for, saying, if you can wait a few more months, wait for November, wait for the birthday sales for War Thunder. You can pick up this thing for was it $20 or $15 or $10 or something like that? Basically half of its current price. Now, if that doesn't scream worth it, then I don't know what does. It's easily one of the most worthwhile premiums in the entire game. If you're looking to grind out the Italians, look no further. Don't even maybe if you want to do what I did and grind out the planes, grind out the G91 Pre with the G55S, jump in the Pre, Talisman the Pre, and then go for the YS. I would say that that's well worth your time. The plane is fantastic. It's great fun. It is extremely dominant in its BR. Not too dominant though. It is just really, really good. I wouldn't put it up to 5.0 because then you start to see things that simply outclass it in every way, shape, and form. This plane needs to be able to get above its opponents, and it also needs to be able to turn with them because it can't run. Basically, that's the long and short of it. It's slow, and it doesn't really have much if it's caught at low speed. Anyway, ladies and gents, this is the G55S. Certainly well worth it. And, yeah, dominating Ruhr. Ace game. Without much effort, honestly. It's just wonderful. I love this thing. You can chill, you know, you can listen to some music, watch a stream. You can, I don't know, chat to your mates on Discord while you're playing this. You don't need to put a lot of thought into playing the G55S as long as you're putting yourself in good positions. And it's not that hard to do it. The trick is when you end up with a multiple engagement situation. But anyway, ladies and gents, take care, and I'll catch you next time.